got up on the wall.
Okay. Once again, my name is Jason Crivelli, and I'm your host. I work with Searle Magnetics Incorporated, which is a subsidiary of Searle Technology Incorporated. This next speaker is a founder and CEO of the PES Network Incorporated and the New Energy Congress. He is the primary driving force behind PESWiki.org, PESN.com, FreeEnergyNews.com, and the EnergyNest.org. Now, Sterling Allan put together these websites to network with people and have a mission of getting all of these inventors and philosophers and people who can improve our world together to vet these technologies, to show them in context, to give interviews, and to have people become more involved directly. You can go onto his forums and you can log on and see lists and lists of breakthrough energy technologies from many, many inventors over the last 100 years or so. So without further ado, the Breakthrough Global Energy Movement presents to you Mr. Sterling Allan.
Really great to be here. I appreciate your showing up and wanting to be involved in this movement. I know we're not just speaking to this group here, but there's an extended group both live through the webcam stream, as well as those who'll be watching afterwards. So hello to everyone out there in that world as well. Really, you know, we've been involved in this movement, I have personally, for 11 years. And there are a lot of amazing things going on in this world. But I want to go way outside the box today. Normally we talk about the top breakthrough technologies. And you can go online and watch those presentations. They're all over the place. If you go to my sterlingspresentations.com, you can download those. Today we want to talk about prophecy.
Yeah.
So,
Preach.
Preach. You know, this is where we usually start out the presentation. Imagine a world where each home has its own power generator that obtains its power source in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us as we track our progress towards such a world.
Yeah.
And what happens sometimes is we get breakthrough burnout. When are they ever going to show up? We've been tracking this stuff. I've been in it 11 years, and it's been about 4 to 6 months away for 11 years, right? In today's presentation, you have to forgive me because this button's a little bit weird. I have to give a disclaimer. We're going so far out on a limb, I don't want anyone out there with me in case I fall off, okay? So I'm speaking for myself. I don't represent any organization, either the people that are working with me in the different teams, the New Energy Systems Trust, New Energy Congress, Breakthrough Energy Movement. You're all dissolved from responsibility for anything I'm going to say today, okay? You can, if I'm safe out there, you can come and join me, but if I fall off, then you just go, oh, wait, there's a little bit more there. We're going to go really deep today. I want you to go both left brain, right brain. You're going to have to be fully engaged because we're going to be covering enough material for a university major in an hour, okay? We're just going to touch on it. So you've got to really be focused. I trust you have a background to be able to do that. We're going to go fire hydrant speed. So be ready to hook on the fire hydrant, okay? We're going to be talking about spiritual content. I don't mean religion. I'm not talking about denominations, world religions. I'm talking about spirituality, spiritual principles that are universal. This is not about elitism. I'm not trying to build up any one person or any one group or any one principle, any one dogma. This is about, everyone is destined to greatness. Everyone in this room, everyone on this planet is born with a mission to fulfill, and we want to step into that. And we want to inspire you to do that with this presentation. So even if you're not in free energy, I hope that we get you encouraged with that. Alphabetics, something I discovered a couple decades ago. It's due to the principle of resonance. And we'll do a demo here in a second. Alphabetics is the ability to apply the alphabetical sequence of words and the numbers associated with them with modern people and places. I've got a couple of books here. This is Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon to the Old Testament. So they just number the words. Word number 834 means yada yada yada, and it gives the Greek, the Hebrew word, and it gives the definition. And it turns out that the numbers correspond to zip codes, phone numbers, addresses, and it's because of resonance. And this is the New Testament lexicon, pretty well marked up. I spent about 5 years totally immersed in this. Every waking hour, just digging stuff out, finding all kinds of crazy stuff. And here's what we're talking about in resonance. Here you see different washers strung at different lengths. What happens if I take a washer right here and I swing it? One that has the same length, watch what's going to happen. Okay, this one apparently has a resonant, like a length and a weight. But notice that this guy right here that has nominally the same weight is starting to swing as well. Okay, even though I didn't touch it. This guy's got something to do with a harmonic. Okay, but these guys, this one's hardly moving at all. Now I'm going to stop these, and I'm going to do this guy right here. These are about the same length. This one is the same length as two, but it's a different weight. So let's see what happens. So this guy starts swinging. Notice this guy's picking it up. And this guy's picking it up some too. This one's about twice the length of this one. So there's some harmonics, there's some resonance. And the closer to resonance it is, the more it's going to pick up that energy. That's why this is happening. It isn't about foreordination. It's not about predestination. It's not about you got to live up to a certain path or else everyone's toast. It's just resonance. Just living up to your mission in life. And you line up with people that you're supposed to be with. Now, we're going to look at some really funky, weird resonance. You guys are going to be pushed out of your comfort zone because this stuff is going to be like, holy cow. Okay? You do the same thing with piano. You put the depressor on the volume control on the piano. What do you call it? The damper. Put your pedal on that, and you sing a certain note, and the string that is that note on the piano will pick it up. You stop singing, and it's vibrating. Right? It's the same principle as this. Not set in stone. Free will is supreme. Our right to choose is, I believe, a universal principle that the God essence honors. We're talking about probable futures. We're not talking about stuff that absolutely is going to, has to happen. And this is a commentary. You take it, you take it with a grain of salt if you want. If it resonates with you, go with it. We're not talking about exact interpretations. Think for yourself. But it's definitely not coincidental. Is there anyone in here who is a statistician? Statistician? Nope. I was hoping that there would be somebody who could say, I could just kind of ask the question, what is the probability of this happening coincidentally? And then he could say, well, probably in the ballpark of 1 in 10 million, or 1 in 10,000, or 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 10, or 1 in 10 to the 17th. What does Alphabetics have to say about this conference today, this weekend, in Boulder, Colorado? And what about free energy in general? You look at the insertion point of Boulder in the, this is the Strong's Concordance lists all the words in the Bible, and it does not exist. There's no word Boulder in the older New Testament. Okay, so it's null on that one. But let's just look at the words before, bought and bound. Makes me think of a scripture in Isaiah 52. Ye have sold yourselves for naught, and ye shall be redeemed without money. Bound is the idea of captivity, and bought, you shall be redeemed without money. Now, in quoting from Isaiah, I'm not saying that I'm going to be saying that the Bible is the Word of God and it's infallible. That's not what I'm saying. There's principles of resonance there, and there are some great messages in the Bible, in the Torah, in the Quran, etc. And Isaiah 52 is a pretty resonant with, end times, with the day in which we live. So this comes up a lot in this series of word studies I'm going to be showing you today. What about 10:10? Okay, today's date, 10/10 of 13. I actually asked the word first. This was a couple days ago. I found this after I already decided I was going to give this talk, this presentation. And I thought, okay, what's the insertion point of Boulder? And then before I looked that up, I looked up word number 10:10, and it happens to be the alphabetical insertion point of the word Boulder in Greek. B-O-U-L-E goes, and then B-O-T-R-E. Boulder goes right there. Okay? That's pretty cool. And look at some of the words. We have, pointing this way, there we go. Cluster, counsel, will, purpose, intention, result, reflection. Those things kind of have to do with what we're doing here at the conference. So there's some resonance going on there. We were going to be at University of Colorado. That seemed pretty cool that finally we're going to have a conference like this at a university. And we ended up in a tent. It reminds you. What about 303, the area code and zip code of Boulder, Colorado? 303 is, Colorado has two phone area codes. 303 used to be was the entire state, and then they split off some of the rural areas or urban areas. But 303 is still Boulder's area code in Denver, and 80303 is the Boulder zip code. So let's look up word number 303 in the this is in the Greek New Testament, and it's actually a prefix. So word number 303 is a prefix ana, and 303 as a phone is a prefix, and it goes all the way up to word number 404, and it means spoken of place, spoken of persons, and that's kind of interesting. So let's keep going here. This is word number 404, which is the last one in the section that starts with ana, ana, in the Greek. And you know the word, when you go to a website and it's not there anymore, what does it say? Error 404, right? Look at the meaning of this word, refresh. Does that ring any bells with computer language? Okay, resonance, okay? Are you getting any of this stuff? Are we like speaking a language that you can relate to? That there's, if I were to ask my statistician, what are the chances of all these things lining up? What would he say? I mean, what are we at right now? At least 1 in 100 million, or maybe up in a trillion? I don't know. I'm not a statistician, but I don't think it's coincidence. And let's see. Now we're going to. Okay. I think I inserted this at the wrong point. Okay, in the series of 303, okay, we're on the page before, and it turns out that this is really weird. This is the only time I've seen this in all the older New Testament lexicon. The guy who wrote this book left out a number. He left out 398. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe there's some relevance here that I don't know what it is. But when I'm doing these alphabetics, I love stuff like this because it's like a big question mark. What does this mean? And then comes an answer. So I don't know what the answer to this one is yet. Maybe one of you guys afterwards will go, duh, it's, and you'll give me the answer. This is page 303, not number 303, page 303 in this lexicon right here, okay? On this page, we have the word 877, which is a toll-free prefix in the United States of America, right? And we have this word foolish, which is the meaning of word number, now we've switched over to 801, which is Utah's area code. It used to be all of Utah was 801. Now it's just like Salt Lake City, Provo, and the outlying areas are 435. And it means without insight, foolish. Foolish, why isn't foolish virgins? Does that ring any bells? And I know living in Utah that, you know, those people there, they're the wise virgins. They're the ones that are going to get it, right? Not according to the New Testament lexicon. You know, I'm not saying that all of Utah is a foolish virgin. That's not what I'm saying. I live there. So, but there's certainly something interesting going on. And right here on the next page is word number 283, which is the number of days of gestation on average when a woman is pregnant. 283 days. Gestation is the birthing of the kingdom of God. Any relevance to wise and foolish virgins there? There's some pretty cool stuff going on here. The resonance, you know, you get one of these guys going and something that is similar or has a similar frequency goes, okay, I got it. I'm on the same page. Okay? So back to 303. On that page, we have the following prefixes. Colorado phone, toll-free prefix, Utah phone prefix, and 499 right there. That was my phone number. I was born and raised in Boulder, Colorado. I lived 3.5 miles that way growing up. Used to go across the street 2 to 6 times a day, going to church, school, activities. Okay, so, hey. And so, there's something going on here. And I'm involved in it too. And you guys are involved in it. And I bet you some of you are going to want to get a lexicon and start looking up your phone number and your address and your girlfriend's phone number and see if maybe there's some resonance going on. Yeah. We're going to have to hold off on questions because we've got to give this university lecture in 1 hour, right? Not university lecture, but the major course. Not a course, but a major amount of information as in to get a university major. Okay, how long before this is going to be resolved? I'm sure they're working on it. I want to, while we're waiting here, I'm going to go on a tangent, and I'm going to have you bear with me. I want to tell a story that's going to come up later in this presentation about, I personally, this is different from the religion that I was raised with, I believe we have many lifetimes, okay? And I asked the question in my mind, you know, what was my previous lifetime? I'm curious. And, you know, most people hope that maybe they were, you know, George Washington or, you know, somebody really cool. The guy I found out that I probably was, and I have about a 99% certainty on it, is not a guy that you want to go, that was me. It's a guy that was like royally messed up. Okay? His name is John D. Lee. And in Mormon history, what happened is after the Mormons moved to Utah to get away from all the persecution, there was a wagon train that was coming through the valley. And one of the guys on the wagon train bragged that he had the gun that killed Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon church. And the Mormons in their temple ceremony had this covenant that they would avenge the life of Joseph Smith. And they would, you know, dispatch him to the next life. And so this wagon train's coming through, and the Mormons are getting all worked up because, you know, anyway, word came down from above. And this guy, John D. Lee, was the bishop down there, I believe, at the time. And he was told to basically dispatch this whole group, 150-some, you know, men, women, children, a lot of innocent people in there. And they got the Indians involved. They made it look like an Indian attack. They circled their wagons for 3 or 4 days. And on September 11th, that name ring any resonant bells with you? On September 11th, I think 143 years before the most recent one, John D. Lee, on orders not from his conscience, but from orders from the church, went in with a group of men with guns, had them disarmed, said, we're going to take you to safety, had a white flag of truce. And they were walking out of there, and on his command, they turned and shot the men and the women and a bunch of the children. There were a few children that survived. It's called Mountain Meadows Massacre. It is the black eye of Mormon history. And I believe I was John D. Lee. And that's why in this lifetime, I don't just follow orders. I follow my conscience. And I also don't have very much of a liking to guns. I've got a gun, but it hasn't been oiled for about 15 years. Probably wouldn't even work. It'd probably be very dangerous to shoot it. And so I believe in the Second Amendment, but for me personally, I just, I don't go there. And so I learned some lessons there. And so just a little bit of reflection on, where I'm coming from, my paradigm. And I tell you, it's not easy for me to stand in front of you and to say, hey, guess who I was in a previous lifetime. It's going to come up in this code. That's why I bring it up. Okay?
Thank you.
Still working on the PowerPoint. Okay. We were on 303. Okay, let's go to the next thing. If we go to 1776, and I'll tell you, this is going to tie into energy. 1776, you start asking, you're just looking for, resonance, things that tie in. Is there anything in the alphabetic code about the American Revolution? So I just one day on a hunch, I just, looked up 1776, and it means to excite, disturb, trouble, annoy, stir up, cause an uproar, make an outcry. Does that have any resonance with the idea of a revolutionary war at the beginning of the American Revolution? It does. And then 1783, which is the year of the treaty with Great Britain, coming together, intercession, prayer, falling in with, meeting with. Do those words have anything to do with the treaty? And then, what about the year of the Constitutional Convention, 1787? Now this is cool, because just there's two columns, and on the column next to it, it's the word commandment, and whether of God or of man. Does that have any relevance with Constitution and founding, the founding documents of freedom for this country? And then 1787, which is the year of the Constitutional Convention when it was brought forth and then sent to the states for ratification. This is the meaning. The kingdom of God is within you, meaning it is located in your heart and affections, not external. This is a resonance of taking a temporal principle and applying it on an individual level, because the macrocosm parallels the microcosm. There's a gospel and there's the government. One has to do with individual salvation, one has to do with group salvation. And the Constitution of the United States was intended to be a protector of the freedoms of all mankind. It was to be promulgated to the world, and actually Mormons were given the responsibility to be the primary champions to defend freedom for the planet. And instead, in many regards, they've gotten in bed with the communists and socialists so they can preach the gospel in their country. So here we have the word for 1787, the Constitutional Convention number, and instead of talking about commandments, which is on the same page, if you just look at it, it's right there. Commandment, Constitutional Convention right here. So it's just right there in the same vicinity. And yet it ties into this principle of individual salvation. Am I going too fast? I mean, this is a lot of information, and I appreciate you bearing with me on this. But do you see the resonance? That there's some harmonic stuff going on here. And then it goes all the way to page or number 19 or 1792. So from 1770 to 1792, every word number parallels what happened on the year in United States history during the founding of this country. There's not a single definition that doesn't have a resonant principle with what happened in that year. And I got that all written up on my website. I was 15 years ago. About 10 years ago, I put that up. Now, why am I bringing all this stuff up in the context of global breakthrough energy movement in Colorado? You have this section of years, of parallel years and things that happen on those years, and then and it starts on word number 1770, and then the word before it, speechless, dumb with amazement. It's kind of the way I feel when I find some of this stuff. It's like, holy cow, how did this happen? I mean, it's freaky weird stuff. Sometimes, you look up a number and it's talking about what you did 10 minutes ago. Crazy stuff. It's like when you're walking down the hall, you just talk to somebody on the phone, and you see a number on the clock and it ties into what you were just talking about on the phone. That's not as weird when it's coming from a lexicon that is based on a language. The Greek is the Old New Testament, and the Hebrew is the Old Testament. These are 1,000-plus-year-old languages. But it's pretty cool. So here we have, and then we have this word which has 9. Okay, this is 99, 9, and 9th. 3 words in a row, which ties into the idea of, if you invert that, it's the idea of 666. Bear with me. This is the kind of the way you have to think on this stuff, to tie in the correlations, to see the relevance. Sometimes you have to go outside the box, and we'll see some really good examples of that later on. There's energy. I just flipped the page over. The word energy does not appear as such if you look in the Strong's Concordance, but there are words that mean energy and give that definition. And here are 2 words right here, energy and energy. And so here were the pages that were dealing with the birthing of the country, the United States of America, to establish freedom for the world. And then here on the page prior is the word energy, tying into, and also the words around energy, established mighty miracles. And then here's an interesting, this is part of the definition for energy: fraudulence, deceit, false miracles, delusive signs. That have anything to do with free energy? And the kind of scams that come along trying to get people to part with their money to support this or that. And the word itself, energy, the being at work, operation, efficiency, active power, very strong tying into the whole idea of electricity and as we use the word energy nowadays. And then this word down here, energy, active power, almost exclusively as a medical term referring to medical treatment and the influence of medicine. I know when I talk to friends and you bring up the word energy, I'm involved in energy work, they're saying, well, do you mean like health-wise, or do you mean like electricity, right? Because those are very different from a technical point of view. But really, there's a lot of resonance, because a lot of people who are involved in alternative thinking on free energy are also involved in alternative healing modalities. And so you have both of those covered there. And then let's just go 1 page over. This is the word energy, energy. And then right here is page 588, which is the number of pages in the first Book of Mormon. Okay? The first Book of Mormon that was printed had 588 pages in it. And this is page 588 in the New Testament lexicon. And here's the word my name for this cause, and the very next word is energy. And then right over here is this definition. This will tie back into John D. Lee. Listen to this definition. To lie in wait as in war or in ambush in order to kill someone. The next word has a similar meaning, an ambush, lying in wait. And then the next word ties into the idea of reincarnation. Look at this definition. I'm going to go actually with the antonym, which is the opposite meaning, to roll away such as a sepulchre stone. That I reveal the idea of birth and death, and okay, so there you have to be, next word definition, to be any place with or any person. And then right here at the top of the word is the word parallel, which is the idea of resonance. Parallels, you draw parallel, it's an allegory, it's a metaphor between this and this because they're in resonance. And so all these words are right over here on this page. For me personally, I can relate to, you know, I'm involved in energy, and lifetime is John D. Lee. So I think that's pretty cool. I share these things with you because I want you to get the idea that we're involved in something that is much bigger than what we think. All those words with 303 and with 1010 tying into this event on this day, this conference, that's the way I read it. That's my interpretation. I could be wrong. That's the resonance that I see. Is pointing to this event and this group of people and this movement and my involvement in it as being very significant, enough to get a resonant tie into the Old and New Testament lexicons. Do you want to see Andrea Rossi in the Old Testament lexicon?
Yeah.
Okay. There are 260 chapters in the Bible, okay? And then like 980 something in the Old Testament, and then there's 300 something in the Book of Mormon, and there's Doctrine and Covenants full of great price. Altogether, these constitute what are called the Quad in Mormon literature. It's the scriptures that we hold around. We bind them all in the same binding. It's called the Quad. And all those chapter numbers together, if you look up the word number with that number, I can't remember, I think it's 1850 or something like that. But if you look up that word number in the New Testament lexicon, it means join together, which is the idea of Ezekiel 37. I will take the stick of Judah and the stick of Joseph and join them together. They shall become one in thine hand. So the word number in the New Testament lexicon that refers to the same number as all the chapters in the Quad is joined together. If you take the number of chapters in the New Testament, 260, and you look up word number 260 in here, I'm just going to do this so you have a visual. 260 is right here, together. And now let's go to the Old Testament lexicon, go to word number 260. To join together. So word number 260 in the New Testament lexicon and word number 260 in the Old Testament lexicon mean the same thing, as does the word in the New Testament lexicon that refers to the total number of chapters in the Mormon Quad. They all mean to join together. Let's look at some other things on this page, and if we had the PowerPoint, you'd have it blown up so you could see it on the page. Right here is the word de Rossi. This was published in 1847. Okay?
De Rossi?
Yeah, it's the name of one of the etymologists who came up with this definition of this word. It's just citing a person who came up with the resonance, okay? And the word right before it, water. H2O, hydrogen, heating water, and the word right underneath it, Celsius, as in like heating, as in temperature, which is another etymologist, the name Celsius in the Old Testament lexicon, which happens to be on the page, or on the word definition number that ties into the number of chapters in the New Testament lexicon. Showing how important, I believe this is showing, that free energy is all about freedom. Wouldn't you agree?
Hey, it's back. Sterling, you're back on.
Okay. We're going to have to skip through some of these because this PowerPoint is online. If you go to sterlingspresentations.com, it'll forward you to our PES Wiki page where I list all the presentations. I haven't uploaded, I've uploaded it, I haven't linked it up yet, but I can do that today. So you can get all this stuff and do whatever you want with it. This was back into when we were talking about the presidents, which is on in the 1776 series. The word number 595 was the page number, I believe, that was on. And then if you go to this word right here, which is on this page, this is the Old Testament lexicon, 5624 is the number of the last word. If you go to the very end of this guy right here, it's right there. Turn the page, all done. 5624. And so that's the last word in the Gesenius New Testament. We go to the next, that's the definition right there. Helpful, profitable. And it's on page 1505 in the New Testament lexicon. What is 1505 in the Old Testament? A decree to decide to establish a special use of fate. The deciders, determiners. When I'm reading this, I'm thinking of parallels and alphabetics and codes and this kind of stuff. Astrologers who, from the position of the stars at the hour of birth by various arts of computation and divining, numeri Babyloni, determined the fate of individuals. So the very last word of the New Testament lexicon is on page 1505, and word 1505 is this definition in the Old Testament lexicon, which in my opinion is endorsing the idea of alphabetics. The very first word in the Old Testament lexicon is father, Ab, word number 1, and it's spelled aleph bet. In the Greek, corresponds to alpha beta. That's where the word alphabet comes from, which is a mixture of the Old, or the Hebrew and the Greek. Alpha is Hebrew, bet is alpha is Greek, bet is Hebrew. And so I asked the question, do you think it's plausible that the study of alphabetics might be a useful tool in understanding the work of the Father in the latter days? Okay? And I would argue that there are two comings, so to speak, two messianic missions. The first coming of Jesus Christ had to do with the gospel. The second messianic coming has to do with the work of the Father in the midst of his people. And I believe that the alphabetics will help us understand that. We've already gone through that. So we come back to, this is the last word, and now we're going to look at, we got back here. 595 is the last page of the 1770 through 1792 parallel. The page before that, this is in the Old Testament lexicon, to numbering, a book, Quran, inscribed on stone. The idea of writing is right there where the last word of the New Testament lexicon corresponds to. Is this just coincidence? Just random? It's resonance. And this can be a useful tool. And because I would argue that the more in tune a person is with their mission in life, the more resonance they're going to find, and the more things like this are going to happen in their lives. You're going to be walking down the hall and you look at the clock right when it reads 11:11. Just like a little feather drop from heaven. It's like the angels just said, take a look right now, just happen to look, and there it is, 5:55. Does that happen to any of you guys? Yeah? Like all the time? You look down at your odometer and it's 1111, or, I call it odometry. That's a close-up of that page. And again, this is this is a 1776 parallel sequence that ends on that page, 595. So it ties in this whole idea of the founding of the United States of America, establishing this Institute of Freedom, and then this whole section is preceded by energy. Tying those two together. In alphabetics, vicinity is, they say close is only good in horseshoes and nuclear bombs, right? And alphabetics. Close is really cool. When you're turning the radio, when you used to have to turn the knob to get a channel, you don't have to be right on the dot to get the channel. It starts coming in pretty strong over a range, right? You can turn the knob quite a bit. It starts coming in, and it's solid for quite a bit of give on that knob because of the resonance. And alphabetics is the same way. You look up your name in the look up your name in the English dictionary, and then look at the words around it, and you'll see some commentary about you and your personality. It's like astrology. It's pretty cool. Okay? And what's after that word? 1801. That's just flipping the page, one page in the New Testament lexicon. That's the Utah area code. And this is the definition: to receive in the ear, to give ear to, listen to. That's the definition of that word. Does it have anything to do with phones and talking on the phone? And also on the word is the word, on that page is the word Enoch. And also the word six. We see the 666 motif coming up a lot. And six, by the way, is not evil. 666 is not necessarily evil either. There's a yin-yang to every one of these words. There's an opposite manifestation. When I lived in Ephraim, Utah, which is on page 666 of the New Testament, or of the Bible dictionary, the word Ephraim is on page 666. I lived in the house number 666. So I had it coming from all sides. And word number 6666 is the word for righteous in the New Testament. Okay? So there's, when you look up a word, if it has a really negative connotation, claim the antonym, okay? I'll go with the opposite of that one. Okay, we all went through that. We showed that. When the day that I purchased this book turned out to be 999 days before the year 2000. And when they give you what do they call, authorization number on the receipt, it was 999999. What are the chances of that? I've still got the receipt. It's right here. It's all faded now, but you can still see that's right here. There's the receipt. But if you look at it at an angle, you can see the nines. And by the way, don't be afraid to write in your books. I used to, when I was teaching at the Mormon Missionary Center, I would say, if you don't have red marks in your book, you haven't read it. Claim it. What about the page before that? That's where we went. And right there at the top left-hand corner, synonyms: for this cause, unto this end, the reason, energy. Okay, now I had breakthrough burnout a week ago when I was a week away from coming here. it was about a week and a half ago, and I was just like, I needed a boost of some kind because I was really, really struggling. And when I started finding all this stuff, it gave me a boost because now I see free energy not just as, you know, this hope that maybe, hopefully, one of these 25 genres of free energy technology that we cover, maybe one of them will actually make it one of these days. This says it's going to happen, and it's very important, and it's this cause unto this end. Free energy is about liberating the people, and freedom is one of the two pillars of the individual, is gospel, collective is government, and government should be about freedom, and we should be about freedom, and free energy is about liberation, is it not? If you can turn on, you got a device in your garage that powers your house, you don't have to power the guys down at the central command or whatever, and you can just light up your greenhouse. You don't have to worry about food anymore, and it's a lot cheaper, 10 times cheaper than what they're charging from grid within 5 years. That's the world we're looking for. You can drive anywhere you want. Your plane can go indefinitely without stopping. Your cell phone, you don't have to plug it in anymore. If you have a natural disaster, the tornado comes through, your phones are still working, the cell tower is still working because it's powered independently. That is cool stuff. Free energy and energy is very fundamental to our evolution as a people. Would you not agree?
Sure.
That's why you're here. And the prophecies resonate with that. So you can go to your Bible-thumping friends and say, get on the bandwagon, right? And even if it's not Bible-thumping, you might find this stuff pretty cool. In fact, I got an email from, I won't say his name, one of the cold fusion pillars. He said, oh, don't talk about that stuff. This is the science. You're going to ruin your credibility. It's going to trash the reputation. No, don't do it. He had a copy of an earlier draft, and anyway, here I am. My wife said, "Don't you? You're committing career suicide." This stuff, people think this stuff is crazy, and when you just look at it one piece at a time, you just go, "Oh, no way!" If you think that your name in the lexicon is prophesying about your mission in life, who do you think you are? Let's ship you off to the mental institution. Go join Paul Pantone. You know, that's the way they respond, right? Mighty works, miracles is one of the definitions of this word. Energeia. If you look up the word energy in Google and get the Greek translation, that is the word it gives you. Okay? Went through that. I'm going to have to step it up here because we are close to being out of time. On this one, I just want to point out that the last word let's see, this is the last word in the New Testament, helpful, profitable. I don't know about you, but that definition has resonance with the definition of energy, having to do with utility and giving people a tool that they can empower their lives. Very, very significant, and ties into the very last word. If you think about I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, that's a very significant messianic phrase. And the very last word has to do with helpful, profitable. It's okay to be profitable. It's okay to be helpful. It's what we should be doing in life. And energy, free energy, is all about that. Word 808 and the last word in the New Testament are almost identical in their antonyms and synonyms. This antonym-synonym thing. And 888 is the number of Jesus, if you spell it out, Jesus. So there you tie in the first coming with this whole idea of energy and the first and the last. Kriya, there's word 888 in the New Testament lexicon. And then there's this phrase, there's word 888, not made with hands, made or performed without hands. Daniel, there's this kingdom in the latter days, stones shall roll out of the mountains, cut out of the mountains without hands. Ties into this. In other words, the kind of stuff we're talking about here is resonant with that. It's part of that word. Then back to energy on this page. Let's look at the page before that. We talked about that, my name, and then John D. Lee thing, page 588. That's a close-up of the bottom of that page. And that's the top of that page. That word sincere is the meaning of sterling, okay? And this is, I'm telling this to you, not to brag, but to say when you look at this stuff, don't be afraid to apply it yourself. Don't be afraid to step in, because every one of us are gods in the flesh. Are we not? Right?
Yes.
We are all messiahs. We are all ones mighty and strong. Anyone on the planet can step into that calling. There's no one who is excluded from that. There's 144,000 ones mighty and strong in prophecy who are going to step up and shift things, and they're not all going to be Mormons, I promise you that. Some of them are going to be excommunicated like me. Can you imagine why they kicked me out?
No, why? I have no idea.
There's word 588 in the New Testament lexicon, that page number that we were just on. 588, where was that? 588. This is word 588. And this, I had a note written in my margin, 222, on page 22, under the banner of heaven by Krakauer, is where he talks about the September 11th Mountain Meadow Massacre attack. Again, resonance, another witness. And that's the thing that you're looking for, is you'll get multiple witnesses. You'll be studying this stuff, and then a friend will call and will say something that had to do with what you were just looking at in the lexicon or whatever you were doing. You've had that happen before. It happens all the time. The more resonant you get, the more you step into your mission in life, this stuff is going to happen like crazy. And then this is the bottom of page 222, the one we were just on, to give, which is the definition of the last gift is in the Old Testament lexicon, the last word is gift. And talk about gift, I think I've got a slide for this. Just get there. Maybe not. The word gift is the last word. And is there a good synonym for gift as in free? Is that a good synonym for gift? The very last word in the Old Testament lexicon is gift. Free energy. It's a gift from God. And if you're trying to become filthy rich like Bill Gates on it and start, with your humanitarian mission making vaccines which sterilize the African population, wrong direction, guy. Right? This is not about becoming filthy rich. It's about blessing humanity. It's a gift. And when we step into our God calling, these are the kinds of things we want to emulate. Emulate the good stuff and don't emulate the antonyms, right? Or vice versa, depending on if the word definition is positive or negative. Claim the positive. Let's look at some of the other insertion points. Strong's Concordance, energy. Look at the word right before energy. Enemies. Does that have any relevance to energy and free energy? Do we have any enemies?
Yep.
Enduring. You got breakthrough burnout. I mean, I've gotten it so many times, I just push through, but man, it's hard sometimes. When is this ever going to happen? Because we get the government we deserve and we get the energy we deserve. And we're not going to get free energy as a world until we deserve it. Right now, we deserve tyranny because we are sowing wickedness. It's true of an individual and it's true of a nation. Until we sow righteousness, we're not going to get freedom and free energy. Individually, yes, you can get it. There will be individual pockets that you can get free energy. But for the world, it's not going to come until the world deserves it. And we are in this transition phase. We're part of this messianic mission of God to get people to raise their consciousness so we can deserve free energy. And we're almost there.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
Almost.
The word, and look at that, ends. The beginning and the end. Just 4 words away from energy. And then words following, inflaming, flaming, fire, getting people excited, engines, engrafted, engraved, the stuff written in the code, in the alphabetics code, is so significant in the resonance, it ties in. And so you can, like I said, go to your Bible thumping friends and get them rallied, get them going, get the Mormon world excited, because they want to do this stuff. They're tired of the fluff they're getting from the mainstream. People aren't just tired of mainstream news, they're tired of mainstream religion. There's a lot of people who are ready to wake up and to crack, and go wake them up and kick them in the butt and let's get going. Yeah. Here it is it's on page 665, energy. 665, just the page before 666 where the word in it, again we saw that on the page with 1801, remember in the 1776 sequence, was the word Enoch, which is the city of God. The whole idea of, we got the boot in the pants coming up here. So let me try and race through this. We went through that. Ephraim's on page 666. Old Testament lexicon, boom. We went through that. Complete, finish, righteousness. Okay. Oh, let's look at this one really quick. This is word 260 in the Greek, together with, we went through that. And the word right before it, actually not right before it, but close to it is alpha. That's alpha, alphabetically insert right there. I am alpha and omega. Right there next to this word 260. And there's the words, the letter Z on the A, alpha and omega, right there. We've got, that's the last word right there. 888 ties into the last word. So we have the first and the last right here. And there's A-L-O-N. That's a pretty close to Allan, so I'll claim that, okay? And then we went through this, joined together. That's the Old Testament lexicon. See it right there? Rossi? Water? Celsius? We've got them highlighted for you. Those are all the correlations on that page. I forgot to show you on the right-hand side, the West, latter times, where the joined together, the idea of fusion, the water molecules, and heating water with that process, all right there. These are all the words on that page. On number 260, which is the number of the New Testament lexicon. Coincidence? No way. Maybe it's of the devil. Well, okay, maybe. Okay, we'll give that a few seconds chance, but probably not. Talking about things that are going to overcome the power of the devil by stepping into our godness. The word Barak is right next to Abba, which is Father. Antonyms. I'm going to do a write-up on this one of these days, and the page before is 911. Which is also September 11th of Mountain Meadows Massacre. And it has, the word is dipping. Does that have anything, dipping? And then just a few thoughts as we're closing up here. We're all in this together. We're all God beings. Jesus said, greater things than these shall you do. Remember that?
Yes.
He wasn't meant to just be on a pedestal, an untouchable person that we could never possibly be like, that God created the whole universe, and we turn God into something. It's like Santa Claus and kids. When you're a kid, you told the story about Santa Claus. And you grow up and you realize you're Santa Claus. The same thing with God. Right? We're all Santa Claus. Right? And here's what's called the mystic symbol. It shows up on all these artifacts that are showing up in the United States that have been dug out for 100-some years. They've got this little mystic symbol on them, which you have basically God the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost joining to man, and then you have this fallen symbol, which I think is a prophecy of this latter-day Messianic ministry. That's us people who are weak in the flesh. I mean, I've got issues, I've got problems, I'm not perfect. I spank my kids sometimes and say bad things, and just like all the rest of you, all of you can say the same thing, and yet we're part of this Messianic mission. We're going to step into our godhood and make this stuff happen. Here's just some highlights of what we hit on the energy relevance. And then I just want to say Isaiah 52. I'm not going to take the whole time right now. I put this to music. About halfway through I made it, about 10 years ago. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful shape. Thyself on the dust arise and sit down. For thus saith the Lord, ye have sold yourself for naught, but ye shall be redeemed without money. That's a way to memorize a chapter. So, okay, the boot's getting closer to his hand there. So, action points. Understanding, realize that exotic free energy is about freedom and spirituality, and until we deserve freedom, we're not going to deserve the free energy individually or collectively. We're getting close, but not there yet. So part of the revolution to bring about exotic free energy needs to include sufficient raising consciousness, and then morale boost, realize that free energy has a prophetic destiny, and hopefully these alphabetics can be a tool for you as you try and do your part. Subscribe to our newsletter. Here's some links. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Once again, my name is Jason Crivelli, and I'm your host. I work with Searle Magnetics Incorporated, which is a subsidiary of Searle Technology Incorporated. This next speaker is a founder and CEO of the PES Network Incorporated and the New Energy Congress. He is the primary driving force behind PESWiki.org, PESN.com, FreeEnergyNews.com, and the EnergyNest.org. Now, Sterling Allan put together these websites to network with people and have a mission of getting all of these inventors and philosophers and people who can improve our world together to vet these technologies, to show them in context, to give interviews, and to have people become more involved directly. You can go onto his forums and you can log on and see lists and
resonance. And we'll do a demo here in a second. Alphabetics is the ability to apply the alphabetical sequence of words and the numbers associated with them with modern people and places. I've got a couple of books here. This is Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon to the Old Testament. So they just number the words. Word number 834 means yada yada yada, and it gives the Greek, the Hebrew word, and it gives the definition. And it turns out that the numbers correspond to zip codes, phone numbers, addresses, and it's because of resonance. And this is the New Testament lexicon. You know, pretty well marked up. I spent about 5 years totally immersed in this. You know, every waking hour, just digging stuff out, finding all kinds of crazy stuff. And here's what we're talking about in resonance. Here you see different washers strung at different lengths. What happens if I take a washer right here and I swing it? One that has the same length, watch what's going to happen. Okay, this one apparently has a resonant, like a length and a weight, but notice
lists of breakthrough energy technologies from many, many inventors over the last 100 years or so. So, without further ado, the Breakthrough Global Energy Movement presents to you Mr. Sterling Allan.
Really great to be here. I appreciate your showing up and wanting to be involved in this movement. I know we're not just speaking to this group here, but there's an extended group both live through the webcam stream, as well as those who will be watching afterwards. So hello to everyone out there in that world as well. Really, you know, we've been involved in this movement, I have personally, for 11 years. And there are a lot of amazing things going on in this world. But I want to go way outside the box today. Normally we talk about the top breakthrough technologies, And you can go online and watch those presentations. They're all over the place. Go to my sterlingspresentations.com. You can download those. Today we want to talk about prophecy. So,
Preach.
Preach. If I'm safe out there, you can come and join me. But if I fall off, then you just go. Oh, wait, there's a little bit more there. We're going to go really deep today. I want you to go both left brain, right brain. You're going to have to be fully engaged because we're going to be covering enough material for a university major in an hour, okay? We're just going to touch on it. So you've got to really be focused. I trust you have a background to be able to do that. We're going to go fire hydrant speed. So be ready to hook on the fire hydrant, okay? We're going to be talking about spiritual content. I don't mean religion. I'm not talking about denominations, world religions. I'm talking about spirituality, spiritual principles that are universal. This is not about elitism. I'm not trying to build up any one person or any one group or any one principle, any one dogma. This is about, everyone is destined to greatness. Everyone in this room, everyone on this planet is born with a mission to fulfill, and we want to step into that. And we want to inspire you to do that with this presentation. So even if you're not in free energy, I hope that we get you encouraged with that. Alphabetics, something I discovered a couple decades ago. It's due to the principle, this is the way we usually start out the presentation. Imagine a world where each home has its own power generator that obtains its power source in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us as we track our progress towards such a world. And what happens sometimes is we get breakthrough burnout. When are they ever going to show up? We've been tracking this stuff. I've been in it 11 years, and it's been about 4 to 6 months away for 11 years, right? In today's presentation, you have to forgive me because this button's a little bit weird. I have to give a disclaimer. We're going so far out on the limb, I don't want anyone out there with me in case I fall off, okay? So I'm speaking for myself. I don't represent any organization, either the people that are working with me in the different teams, the New Energy Systems Trust, New Energy Congress, Breakthrough Energy Movement. You're all dissolved from responsibility for anything I'm going to say today, okay? You can,